Hi, I'm Susie Quattro, and you are listening to Icon Fetch.
Welcome to Icon Fetch, the web's premier music interview show. Now, here's your host, Tony Peters.
Well, things are definitely looking up for singer-songwriter M. Rossi. She's recently collaborated with Jim McGorman, who's worked with the likes of Avril Lavigne and Paul Stanley. Now, the two of them have been working on a series of singles that she's been issuing on YouTube and social media. Well, people are responding. She's up to 5 million views on the online channel. The video for her latest single, Empty Space, just premiered on the Huffington Post's website. Like many of her recent songs, it deals with the sudden loss of her father and the void that it left behind. M's working towards an eventual full-length album, hopefully coming real soon. And to talk about it and more, we welcome to the show M. Rossi. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing great.
It's good to talk to you. Now, a good place to start. I understand that, you've pretty much been singing your whole life. But as a teenager, and you start thinking about what you want to do with your life, as teenagers, you get that a lot. I have a couple of teenagers in my house, and it's like, so you start thinking about, what am I going to do as a career? When did you decide that music was going to be the path you took?
I mean, music has always been my passion first and foremost. However, when I was younger, I was too afraid to share it. I was really shy, and I was too scared to sing in front of anybody. I mean, seriously, like my family friends didn't even know that I sang until I was probably 13 or 14.
Really? Okay.
And around the time when I was 13, 14, was when I went out and I did like my first live performance, local hometown restaurant. I was absolutely terrified. And I remembered hearing like the crowd just cheering, and that was the first time something like that had ever happened to me. I was singing at a pizza restaurant downtown, actually, and my dad had thrown me up on stage without telling me. And I'll never forget it. There was like a little balcony, and literally the people that were sitting upstairs were coming to the balcony edge to listen to me, and the cooks started coming out of the kitchen. It was the most amazing thing ever. But like after having an experience like that, especially as like a shy person who is so afraid of acceptance for their voice and a passion that they loved, it was such like an eye-opening experience. I kind of started thinking then like, oh, music's something I could maybe actually pursue rather than just having it be a love and a hobby. And once I finally had the opportunity to actually get into it, that was when I decided, like, music's the career. I have the chance now. I can't let this go. I have to at least give it a shot. And that was when Jay King from the group Club Nouveau walked across the street and asked my parents for directions on a random night. They were out on a date night, and then he heard me sing, and we met the next day, and the lead singer, Samuel Prater, took me under his wing, and I started recording from then. I was 14, freshman in high school.
Oh, baby, it's madness. I'm loving this madness. No room in here for silence. Can't get enough of this madness.
I understand, your dad was an amateur musician himself, and so even with that, he would know how hard it is to be a musician and to try to make it. Did you have the full support of your parents, kind of thing?
Oh, I had incredible support from my parents. They did reach out beforehand just to make sure, does she have what it takes? Is she good enough for it? And once they had gotten that reassurance from other people saying, she has a voice, she can really do something with it, we just have to put her in the right hands surrounded with good people, they were all for it. And, they were at my side from day one. And, they never pushed me as a little kid to scare me too much to, force me to go out and do all those talent shows and, to go out with groups or whatever. They never forced me into it. They just, in the beginning, they allowed me to really just kind of slowly build my passion and my love for it and really just kind of hone it by myself. I had a private vocal instructor from the age of 8 on. And once I finally started going into the industry, they were fully managing me. And then after my dad passed away unexpectedly when I was 15, we took a bit of a break, but my mom picked up the pieces and she met the consultant that we've been with for 2 years. And, they've both had my back ever since. And I know that my mom is going to be there for me every single step of the way. And, I'm incredibly grateful and fortunate to have had that, especially as a parent, because I know how hard it is. I mean, you first say that you love music and you want to pursue music, and they're like, wow, that's one crazy dream. But
Right.
My parents, they didn't even bat an eye towards it. They said, okay, let's handle it. Let's not run into this blindly. But this is what you want to do. We're not going to let our daughter, we're not going to hold our daughter back from what she loves to do.
Hold me close, 'cause hope is a liar when the lights go out. I'll walk through the fire.
Now, you did mention, that your father passed away suddenly at the age of 15. And, there's never a good time to lose a parent. But, I mean, right as you're kind of coming into being a young woman and trying to figure out who you are, and you lose your dad. And I understand that, people can react to grief in very different ways, but you really poured yourself into your music and used that as kind of a way to deal with some of that grief, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was the week after I finished recording my first ever EP that my dad had passed away. He was born with a heart defect that wasn't discovered until he was 42, and he had open heart surgery when I was 8. And then it was 8 years after he was 50 years old. I come back from school and the unexpected worst nightmares ever happened to me. And and after doing that, I mean, I think I just sat there in my head and said, we could easily pull over the covers, give up on everything that we've done, and I could just leave, the normal life in high school, and maybe just go and hang out with my friends or something, and just really do nothing and just really be unhappy for the rest of my life. But I knew that my dad would first and foremost not want me to do that at all, and he would want me to, if anything, take the grief, turn it into strength, and make something from it. And music has always been my confidence builder. It's been my expression. If I'm sad, I'm happy, any emotion that I'm feeling, I turn to music for it, because I always had that connection whatsoever. And I kind of just sat there the day after my dad passed away. I sat down and I just said, the only way I'm going to really reflect on this and really kind of figure out all these bottled up thoughts in my head is to write it down. And I just started writing, literally this giant essay of just multiple pages of just emotions and metaphors and similes. And what came of it was the concept of empty space. I wrote it the day after he passed away, and it expressed everything. It expressed fear for the future, the present, the hollowness of my house. And I really took comfort in that. And for those 6 months where I was kind of not seen, I was just kind of going to school doing nothing, I would just come home and I would just pour myself into writing. Whatever I was feeling that day would just go out on paper, whether it was good or not. And I just sang. I took that time to hide away and just really self-reflect. And that really helped with the grieving, with the grieving process. That really helped. Sure.
And I mean, listening to the words of Empty Spaces, that to me, that doesn't sound like the words of a typical 15-year-old girl. There's a lot of depth there. And obviously you're going through a lot of grief. When you look back on some of the stuff you wrote, that when you're going through a grieving time, a lot of times it's a blur. You don't remember all of it because you're in such grief. When you look back and read some of the words that you wrote, are you kind of amazed now that you've had, say, 3 years, since that?
Yeah. It's been almost 3 years. I actually, I really don't think that I was kind of amazing. I think I kind of expected that from myself in a sense, because my parents, I was born and raised with a lot of appreciation for the arts, and my family has also held communication as the key for holding our entire family together, which has been, absolutely incredible for a family. And so I remember going out on the beach when I was, 8, 10, and my dad and I would walk along the beach alone, and we would talk about life. And so from an early age on, they never kind of held me away from the aspects of reality and life, death, any single topic. They taught me understanding and perspectives on how to look at certain aspects of your life. And in going and writing from the day after he passed away, I actually was kind of very aware of everything. I was very observant, surprisingly, in that blur of the chaos of just, the shock and the realization. And I really just kind of sat there and, from the smallest of details, I just kind of picked apart everything just one step at a time, rather than just kind of looking at it from this giant, mess of sadness and sorrow. I really just kind of honed in and said, what am I feeling here? What are my thoughts on this? And then try and kind of, formulate almost some process as to how to get through it by myself. I was already, from day one, I was already kind of going, okay, how should I try and think about this? I'm feeling this way. What's the best way to get through it from here? And from that day on, I was really just, fully aware of myself and fully aware of all those thoughts, as well as observing everybody else around me.
Right, right. Now, we mentioned at the top of the show that Empty Spaces just debuted on the Huffington Post, a video.
Silence surrounds me, waves are crashing down, I'm drowning in this empty space.
And I'm watching this, and it's very well done. You mentioned the beach, and that's in there, and there's also, it looks like mountains as well, and it's almost like a metaphor for the fact that there's a lot of different ways you can interpret empty spaces too, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And from what we really wanted to get across, we shot this video in Malibu. It was at Dune Point. I'm probably saying that wrong, but then we also went to Malibu, the skate park. That was right off the road from there. And it was just what we really wanted to get across was the simplicity of what empty space actually is. I mean, because when you're lonely in your head, your mind's racing. You're going, why am I lonely? I'm sad, this and that. But when in actuality, when you're, physically lonely, you're in a room alone and there's nobody around you. And by going out to a beach where there's nobody on it and then going out into a forest where you're all alone, there was the two contrasting colors of light and dark. And coming from this song, moving on, it's, like you said, it's been almost about 3 years now since he passed away. I don't want his passing, I draw from it and I move forward from it, but I don't want it to anchor me back, to those emotions and that sadness that I felt back then. I want to move forward and, that light on the beach as I'm walking forward, and then, walking backwards, having the camera to my back as I'm, walking through the forest. They were both just the contrasting ideas. And I think it was more just this music video is just going to be the carrier for what comes next with me in music, as well as, the embodiment of the song.
Right, right. Absolutely. Now, we mentioned that you have been working with Jim McGorman, and we actually had Jim on the show a couple years ago, and Jim's worked with Avril Lavigne. He did the Rockstar TV show and worked with Paul Stanley and all that. How did you get hooked up with Jim? And, I mean, we've interviewed him. He's a great guy. How'd you get hooked up with him?
Yeah, Jim's awesome. So right around the time that I had met my consultant, my mom, through Jay King, we met my consultant, and then after working with him for a few months or two, we were starting to reach out to more producers. And my consultant knew Jim, and so we shot, the original EP, the scratch vocals and stuff that I had before. And it wasn't until actually like a month or two after we had sent it that Jim called us up and said, hey, I finally got time to sit down and listen to it, and I'd love to meet. And after we met, there was about another short period of time before I actually got into the studio with him. But then only got into the studio, it was really just my time to kind of first off escape my hometown. I was coming here to LA, so things were new and fresh, and I could really just sit down into a studio and escape and just write with him. And he was an incredible mentor for a just turned 16-year-old who had lost her dad and is, still trying to work out all the grieving process of everything in her head. And, he really just carried those emotions, and he really just helped me find a path as to the messages and how I want to say, what was on my mind at that time. So Jim was awesome, and, he's always there for me, and so I really appreciate him.
Right, absolutely. Now, I understand, your primary instrument that you play is a piano, but, some of the songs that you've recorded don't have any piano. I mean, is there kind of a reason for that, to kind of not want to be pigeonholed as one type of artist or kind of thing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I actually was late on starting on the piano. I didn't start piano until I was 14, right around the time when I started working in the studio. I was like a sports kid growing up, and so, music, my voice was my secret. And so I, when I would come back from school, I would spend hours on my voice. I would just, I would sing songs for 4 hours in my dad's office, and nobody even would know about it except for my family. And so, I had the very tomboy perspective on the outside around all my friends and around my family. And then I would come back and it would be my voice, and I was so focused on those two that I never really picked up piano until late. But as I was 16 working with Jim, I was still pretty much just absolutely terrible at the piano. And so I was kind of I'm like, Jim, you play piano really well. You make it sound beautiful. You have literally probably 3 times the amount of experience that I have on it. So I'll let you handle that aspect of it. But what I'll do is I'll sing like the piano melodies so we can help and try and, formulate the song. But really, like back then, I mean, like I was kind of like totally inexperienced with the piano. And so now that it's been, I've been at it for like 4 or 5 years now, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is such a different aspect. I'm like, I can just freely sit at home and write songs and like actually write whole songs rather than just coming in with lyrics or just a vocal melody. Like, so it's nice. I mean, after looking back onto these old songs, I was like, oh my gosh, like it's been 2 years since I recorded Empty Space. It's been, Earthquake and all those other songs. I'm like, oh my gosh, things have changed so much since then. It's just crazy to look back on.
Yeah, and I mean, as you get better on an instrument, I play guitar, and I've like just recently kind of really tried to get into it over the last couple of years, and I find that actually as you get better on an instrument, then that kind of opens up your palette for maybe better songwriting too, I would think.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like I said, I was basically writing journal entries or poems when I was, back then 2 years ago. And that kind of, the dynamics of the stuff that I was writing really wasn't that different. And then after I graduated from high school, like I was sitting there in my room, like not even a week after the graduation, and I was like really taking the time, like I had the time of day in the summer, I could just sit on the piano, and I really sat on the piano like all day one afternoon. And the next thing I knew, I realized I was like, oh my gosh, I just wrote this entire song by myself, and it's not terrible.
That's great.
Oh my god,
that's awesome.
And like having the melody there in the beginning, it can totally lead you on to then writing vocal melodies afterwards, and it can drive your lyrics into directions that sitting down on the couch with no sound around you would put in front of you. It just opens the boundaries as to how you can approach a song when you write it.
Right, absolutely. Now I want to ask you about a couple other songs that you have out now. Young Hearts.
Young hearts are breaking all over the world tonight. Whoa, from New York to Sydney, tears are filling up the sky.
It's got a ton of views. I mean, I think there's like 2 million on YouTube, which has just got to be, I mean, that in itself has got to be mind-boggling, right? You put that up on YouTube, hoping that, your friends and some other people will like it, and then you get 2 million hits. I mean, that's awesome.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, well, before that was Earthquake, and so when we had really released Earthquake, I was kind of like not expecting anything at all. And the fact that the connection just around the world of people connecting with that song, the universal reality of loss, was incredible. And I mean, I was still in school when we released Earthquake and Young Hearts. So I was literally sitting there in class, like going through the comments section and approving it, like with my phone under the table. And but then I would walk in like the next day. Like I remember the day I hit 2 million on the Young Hearts video. I walked into the classroom that morning. I'm like tired. I'm like, in the Young Hearts video, like I'm all dolled up in my makeup. I'm in this like sparkly dress and all that. And then the next day, I like walk into school and I'm in like a sweatshirt. I just woke up and I'm like tired.
Right.
They're just like they just can't wrap their head around. They're like, who is this girl?
Right.
Like, what is going on? And then they're like, she's 2 million views on YouTube. What is this? But yeah, I mean, like back then I was shocked. But it's been a while now, and I haven't really kind of like gone back and just like looked at my YouTube channel with the view counts. But still, when you realize, like when you scroll through the comment section is really where the love is, and you sit there and you just go, wow, like, you're not the only one. These people are actually relating to the songs that you write and
right.
the words that you say. And that's really just, it's so crazy to actually see that. It's awesome.
Right. And I mean, a teenager from California, you put up a YouTube video, and I mean, we're not just talking about in the United States, but you have people all over the world commenting on your stuff. I even saw some people like typing in I don't know. I didn't have time to actually check which language, but it looked like a foreign language. I mean, it's crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like, well, because for both Young Hearts and Earthquake and Empty Space, I mean, like, I was getting a lot of love from, like, Canada and Australia. I was trending on the trending charts there on YouTube, which was, it was so crazy. Just the fact that they've picked up all three. They've been also supportive. But then, like, I feel kind of bad, like, because I sit there and, like, I go through the comment section because I make sure that I reply back to all the amazing comments. I don't want to just like, be rude and not say thank you to any of them. But so I sit there with some of them and I'm like, I have an open tab. Like I have the video up and then another tab open to Google Translate.
Right. Yeah.
Pasting it.
Right.
And I'm just like, what did you say? I'm
right.
like, oh, that's really nice.
Right.
And I'm like, thank you. But it's just so crazy. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I mean, but I'll get more than just comments. I'll get, messages on social media, or I'll even get emails. And I had one guy from Sweden messaging me, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, you're in Sweden? Or like, I'm a partner artist on the app called Smule, and I'll have people from London and so many other places just messaging me. And I'm like, I'm holding daily conversations with you on my direct messages. And you're all the way across the country from me. It's so
crazy.
Incredible.
Now, you mentioned Smule. Now, that's like an app where people can like sing along to your songs kind of thing and then post it or whatever. I mean, how did you get involved with that? I mean, is that kind of how you sort of honed your skills, is singing to other people's songs kind of thing too?
I mean, well, from the start, I mean, I didn't have the app. It was very organic. I mean, I fell in love with Adele and Sarah Bareilles when I was younger, as well as the Broadway songs. So that's how you start. You grow up singing other people's songs. But Smule kind of just came across it was very spontaneous as to how I got into it. Through a family friend, I had the connection and the contact to get into the group, and they picked me up, and they picked up Earthquake, and then they picked up Young Hearts, and the fact that they were starting to pick up my originals was just really incredible. And I could have just sat there and just been like, oh, I'll just have my originals on there and that'll be that. But then I started looking at the app and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like so fun, this karaoke thing. I'm like, people from all around the world are just joining in and singing with you. And it was so much more of a supportive and collaborative community, because on YouTube it's very hard to do that. But then I'm like looking on there, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'll just go and I'll do a cover and let's see what happens. And I put the cover up there and started getting so many just comments and so many collabs onto it. And I just kept doing it, and I really enjoyed it. And it's been one of my best social media platforms since then, just in the amount of love and support from people and the amount of new people that I've met, and the fans, they've branched off onto my other socials. And it's just been such an amazing growth, and I love being on that app. They're an incredible app, and I love the family there, and I just love the community that they created, and it's growing since then, which is just awesome to see.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's a good way to kind of get word about what you do. If somebody happens to be searching for Adele and you cover an Adele song, you might be in there in the hits kind of thing. So
Yeah, I know. That's like, it's fun because, aside from YouTube, like I can kind of just sing like those songs that, you wouldn't expect to do a YouTube cover for. So it's just kind of like, it's just totally an open book. And then because it's more than just a YouTube comment. They're writing paragraphs and legit letters to me. And they're asking me questions about, stage fright and stage presence and, trying to start a career and just, finding songs that you love, how you start writing songs. It's just like, the topics are just branch off all of that. It's literally just one massive community. It's just, it's awesome.
Nice. I have to ask you about one more song. And to me, you talk about kind of stepping out of your comfort zone or whatever. I love Animal.
Take the day. It's so easy. I'm cutting loose just like an animal.
Just because it's so different from anything else you do. What can you tell me about that one?
Animal, like I think I always just describe Animal as like one big experiment. I mean, we had gotten into the studio that day, and we really just kind of didn't even know what we were going to write. and I sat there and I was kind of like, I don't really have a song about just like cutting loose. And I think if there was like a amount of like stress built up or whatever within all of us, and we're like, what, let's just write a song just saying kind of like, screw everything. Let's just cut loose and have fun. And, what came out of it was kind of, maybe it was our anger for our stress or something. What came out of it was kind of a lot of rock elements. And it was something just so different that I kind of enjoyed it too. It's just its own character and its own thing that when we released it, it was kind of nice. It was kind of nice to just get out there and see what people would think of it. I mean, like, it was just kind of like such a sidestep as to anything else that I've ever done before.
Right. I mean, it shows off a different side of you. It rocks. It's got So that's cool. So, let me ask you one more thing about collaborating. From what I understand, another guy that we interviewed a while ago, Carlos Calvo, you were kind of doing some collaborating with him. Why don't you tell me about that?
Yeah, Carlos. I mean, I literally just met Carlos not even that long ago, 2-3 weeks ago or whatever. I mean, I've only been in LA with my mom for a month and a half. And it's literally been a blur. I mean, because the amount of people that we have met and the amount of just amazing people that we've met, it's so amazing to finally just be surrounded, just fully surrounded in nothing but music. And so that's incredible. I performed my very first show here in LA at the Study in Hollywood. And I met Carlos there, actually. And we got along great. We just became great friends. And, we just thought, hey, let's just get together and write and just kind of, get back into it. Because like I said, it's been 2 years since I did Earthquake or did Empty Space or any of the songs. And so I'm just like, I have like this file cabinet of just songs and ideas. And like, I just want to expand upon it more than just me sitting in my room with my piano. I'm like, let's try something out.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, Carlos, there's so many others. I'm just really happy for this time of being here in LA now, because it's such a new world, it's such a new chapter, and I can't wait for the people and the opportunities that come my way.
Right. Now, you've got a decent amount of songs. Do you have, is there a full-length album in the works, or is it just kind of wait and see kind of thing?
I think it's kind of a wait and see right now. I mean, like I said, I have I'm just starting to get back in the studio right now with, some ideas and stuff that I've been already writing on, just that are basic roughs and demos. But, I'm really just I want to take the time with, if I'm going to put out an album, I want to make sure that it's a really cohesive blend of just, the sound now that I'm 18, now that a lot has changed. And I'm in a very different spot in my life than what I was when I was, a just turned 16-year-old and I was still in my hometown and still going to school. And so, I really just kind of want to take the time right now and just dive into it and make sure that, what comes out of it is the new me and really expresses just and gets out everything that I want to say. So yeah, I think it's kind of just like whatever happens, and I'm open to everything, and we'll just see where it goes. Right.
Nice. Well, that's a good attitude to have for sure. So, if people want to find out, you're very plugged into the social media. Why don't we? What's your website then? A good place to start.
Yeah, you can listen to my story, read my bio, hear more of my music on my website, mrossi.com. That's E-M. M is short for Emily. Everyone thinks that it's just an M. But mrossi.com. You can also check me out on my other socials, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all that jazz, with the handle @mrossimusic. So
great.
You can find me.
Right. Fantastic. All right. Well, good luck on it. The new video is great for Empty Spaces, and we hope to be able to see like a full length coming pretty soon then. All right?
Yeah. Hopefully.
You've been listening to Icon Fetch with Tony Peters. Want more great interviews? Head on over to iconfetch.com. There you'll find every interview we've ever done, plus CD reviews, This Day in Music, and a random album of the day. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter. Who's Tony going to interview next? It could be you. Send us what you've got to Tony Peters, Icon Fetch, P.O. Box 292134, Dayton, Ohio. Zip code 45429, or email Tony, host@iconfetch.com. Until next time, this is Joe Kelly. Have a great day.